Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. When you're starting a business, it's really easy to get intimidated by the thought of having to hire an accountant for your business. And the truth is that you don't necessarily have to on day one. But what I always say is you definitely need to get help from day one. So even if you don't have somebody, in your corner 24/7, you definitely need to have some type of professional assistance as you're starting your business. And what I think folks usually assume is that hiring an accountant is expensive. Hiring an accountant is a commitment, and hiring an accountant is something that you only have to do once you've made a certain amount of money. And none of those are true. Absolutely none of them. And this is how most entrepreneurs end up with a scary tax bill or, surprises, negative surprises, whether it be a big tax bill or just running out of cash or being in a negative financial position and ending up, having to make sacrifices to keep their business open. I think that it's underappreciated what accountants can do for you in your early stages. If they know how to serve your type of business and your stage of business life. I think that there's a misalignment often with accountants and business owners where what's happening is the accountant is waiting for you to ask questions. And then you are waiting for the accountant to tell you information. And nobody is starting the conversation. It's the it's the conversational equivalent of a middle school dance with the boys and the girls on the sides of the room, right? And it's just one of those things like nobody wants to come to the table first and say anything, so nothing happens. And one of the ways to get around that is to understand what I'm going to break down in this episode is what does each type of accountant do? Because by the way, there's multiple types. What do you need in your business? Who should you be seeking out? And what can you do to make sure they're the right fit for you? We're going to do an entire episode, I promise you, on questions to ask a potential accountant you work with, because that's an entire thing. I think there are so many questions you need to be asking. So stay tuned for that episode. But what I'm going to focus on today is what do you need in your business right now, depending on where you're at? Because that's a very specific formula I follow to recommend to people. And by the way, I turn down a lot of work in our CFO services for folks who just aren't quite there yet and ready to invest in that. I always recommend starting with a bookkeeper. If someone comes to me and they don't have a mature bookkeeping process, I immediately send them to some of my trusted bookkeepers because that is paramount. So what I always recommend you do is start with a bookkeeper. And yes, even if you're doing like a dozen transactions a month, I think it makes sense to have somebody in your corner that will do that, handle that, and set things up for you the right way. And kind of build the structure in your QuickBooks or, in your bookkeeping software. And I do recommend, by the way, that you get something like QuickBooks from day one. It's just so much easier to have your entire history in one place, because if you have the intention that you're going to grow the business and you're going to have this for years and years, then why not just set the systems up in place that you're going to need to have, especially when it's like $40 a month or something like that. I know people spend more money in coaching. They nitpick the $40 a month QuickBooks subscription. And I think that's funny because I'm like, this will serve you for years, for your entire life of your business. So make sure that you're investing in the right tools and technology. And then hiring a bookkeeper is crucial. What does a bookkeeper do? And by the way, everybody uses the term accountant to describe everybody. And I know that that's easy to do because that's just common English, but I'm going to break down the differences between these people because then you can be really specific about who you're looking for when you go on sites like Upwork or Indeed or ZipRecruiter, or even when you're posting on Facebook or Instagram that you're looking for someone, you can say, I'm looking for a bookkeeper. Because a lot of folks say I'm looking for an accountant, and that can mean a whole spectrum of different people. So a bookkeeper is where you start, and they help you compile and collect the financial data for your business so that you can use it to make decisions. They will help you take all the transactions that are in your bank accounts, categorize them, and organize them properly so that when it comes time to do your taxes, everything is in line, in order, and you have all your totals done. Also, it's not, I hate saying that a bookkeeper is there to make sure your taxes get done right, because they do far more than that. Now, that is the easiest thing for me to say because that's the biggest pain point you feel as an entrepreneur is when you don't have your books done, you usually feel that sting around April. And that's when it can feel daunting. But the reality is that you want your books done every single month, because what will happen is that you won't know where you stand. You won't know. You'll just see that you have cash in the bank account, but you won't know what that means. You won't know what expenses are coming up. You won't know what you have to plan for and budget for. And what bookkeeping does is it gives you that, awareness, gives you those tools to know where you stand in your business. It's kind of like if you're on a weight loss journey and this is your food journal. This is the thing that's telling you the calories in, calories out. This tells you if you're making progress. If you were trying to lose weight, but you never did a weigh-in, then you're kind of just going off of feeling, right? You might be going off of like how your pants feel or something like that, but you're not getting any true metrics out of it or knowing what was working and what wasn't working. So you have to track certain things to notice progress. So bookkeeping is huge. I can't speak enough about that. Now, you definitely need a bookkeeper as a business owner. I think that's a non-negotiable personally. You can do it yourself. You can. I wouldn't recommend it unless you are somehow trained in a little bit of the science of accounting, because there are nuances to how you have to do the accounting, no matter the size of business or activity level, that you need to be conscious of. And if not done correctly, will cause the bookkeeper more work and cleanup later. So, and here's another myth busting, right? Uh, a bookkeeper doesn't have to cost a bunch of money either. You don't have to hire them every month. You don't have to hire them every quarter. You could actually hire a bookkeeper on an hourly basis. Just keep them, handy. You could hire them on an hourly basis, on a consult basis, to come in and do essentially an internal audit of your books, or to come in and reconcile things every quarter. Maybe you could just keep things updated yourself. You could allocate your transactions and have them come in and do a review. You can do those types of things easily and just instill more confidence in your books for your accountant that's going to do your taxes. So moving on into that professional, right? If you want to hire someone to do your taxes, that is what people think when they think of accountants. They're like, oh, they do taxes. And I got to break it to you that there's a good chunk of accountants out there who basically studied taxes to pass their exam, decades ago, and have never touched taxes since. The accounting profession, definition really is primarily around financial accounting and it's a little bit elevated from bookkeeping. So there's bookkeeping, and then the accounting is really, compiling financial statements. It's a little bit of a mix of bookkeeping and CFO, right? Accounting is more the financial analysis, the examination of history of books, right? So it's looking at your profit and loss, your balance sheet. It's understanding how to account for certain transactions. And there's a bit of tax in there as well, but accounting and tax are different things. So when you call for an accountant, what you really might mean is a tax professional. And there are plenty of tax professionals who don't identify as accountants. I know that's super confusing. So if we were to break it down, you really need to start with a bookkeeper as a business owner. Then you need a tax professional. I would call it a tax professional. One, they are respectable professionals, no matter their level of experience. If they're doing taxes, they have the patience of a saint, and they generally know a lot about the tax law. Now, you'll want a tax professional who understands small business, understands your type of industry, understands what you do, and can help you save money in taxes ideally. A lot of folks out there are just tax preparers. And what I want to do is have you as a business owner, I'm speaking to you as a business owner, I would avoid someone who purely does your tax paperwork and doesn't talk to you otherwise. I know that that feels better for you because you don't necessarily want to talk to that person. But I'm telling you that if you can find someone who is willing to sit with you and be a co-author of that story of how your money spent the year, if you can find someone willing to co-author that story with you, as opposed to simply publishing the story you give them, it will be a game changer in how the story ends. I'll say that again. If you find a co-author to your story, it will be a game changer in how the story ends. Because if you're going to your accountant every March or so, handing them a stack of paper and getting back a tax return and filing it and saying, woof, that's over, you're doing yourself and them a disservice because they don't have any ability to help you rewrite the story because the ink is dry on December 31st. And you really can't do a whole lot. There are a few strategies you could do after the year end, but for the most part, you've made all your decisions that will impact your taxes by that point. You're going to want to find someone who can be a professional in your corner, who can advise you, and who will do a tax planning meeting with you in the fall. Now, take them up on this if they offer it, because this is where all the value comes in. And a lot of people, believe it or not, when I did tax preparation work and I included a tax planning meeting, a good chunk of them decline the service. They decline doing tax planning, which is where the tax savings happen. So don't be surprised that your accountant isn't saving you any taxes. Just don't be surprised when you meet with them once a year and hand them the story they need to publish, because that they can't do anything to change that. We can't change much on the tax return by the time we're actually preparing it. It's too late. So make sure you're doing tax planning with a professional. So number one, bookkeeper. Number two, tax professional in your corner as a small business owner. That is really all you need until you hit a level of maturity and possibly revenue and profit levels where it makes sense to hire someone to be more strategic. So you've got your basic layer of professionals, which is bookkeeping and tax pro. That's really the most of what you need. And then when you get to a certain point, I think strategy is huge. And that is your tax strategist and or your CFO. That is what we focus on at Financial. So we come in and examine your financial situation, look at your cash flow, look at your projections, look at your performance and your ability to strategize and lower your tax bill. And we look at what is the potential for improvement here. If I had to compare this to something, right? If you're looking at your first couple professionals, you're hiring, let's say you want to get stronger, you want to become more fit. You're hiring a trainer and a nutritionist. Okay? You're hiring a trainer and a nutritionist, the two elements that you need in order to probably get leaner, get a little bit more toned or stronger, whatever you want to use as a word to describe that. And then let's say you find out there's a Spartan beast coming and you want to be on the, on the starting line of that race. You want to show up and perform in a race like that. Well, if you want to perform in, high stakes environments, if you want to elevate your level, you want to perform as like an elite athlete. Well, then you need more than a trainer and a nutritionist that serves everyone. You're going to need somebody who can specifically train you for that type of endurance, that type of the strength needed to accomplish that. So what I'm saying here is when you elevate your goals, you need to elevate your professionals. And that is crucial because what a lot of folks are doing is they've outgrown their bookkeeper and their tax pro to some extent. They've outgrown, them as advisors because in general, bookkeepers and tax professionals are not advisors. They are typically task oriented. They will complete the work for you. They'll get it done for you. And they take a lot of pride in that work. And there's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of folks who are in those areas are not focused primarily on the advisory. when you get into the strategic advisory area, that's where you learn a lot about how to navigate business, how to, live like $1 million business owner, learn strategies that they're implementing and really elevate. So that is where I would love to see everyone listening to this podcast be living, is in that zone where they have a fractional CFO or a tax strategist in their corner, someone who can communicate with them and they can bounce ideas off of and become that financial accountability for them as well. That is huge. So again, starting out, please get a bookkeeper. I'll make sure that in the show notes, we have our recommended bookkeepers and our recommended solutions. If you're looking for any technology solutions, we have an entire page on our website dedicated to recommendations. So we'll make sure we'll link that below. And then you're looking for tax professionals who can serve you and that maybe you can grow with. I always recommend that you hire a professional that you're going to need in a year or two. Why? Because if you're going to need them anyway, you might as well start a relationship. You might as well start the history with them, because they will serve you so much better in a year or 2 years if they have a year or 2 years of history with you. If you're trying to catch them up on what you've been up to the last 2 years, then that's time spent that they could be advising you on more important things, but you're spending it trying to get to know them, catch up, and build a relationship. The sooner you can invest in a relationship with a professional like this, the sooner you're going to reap the benefits of their counsel and their advice. And speaking of counsel, I didn't mention lawyers in this at all because I'm talking about financial professionals, but it goes without saying, having a solid lawyer in your corner or someone you can go to is also paramount. I think that it's really important to have rock solid contracts, rock solid agreements, and formation documents in place. I can't say enough good things about having a lawyer in your corner when it comes to being a business owner and feeling like you're legally protected. So that's also huge. But again, these are professionals who command a lot of respect and a fee that goes along with that. 100% they are worth it. And 100% you need them in your corner. This is like a non-negotiable for me. You absolutely have to have these people. And before you invest in a ton of crazy marketing, I think you have to have some form of investment in these types of professionals to make sure you've got the systems in place. So when that money comes in, that it's handled properly and you can keep more of it. So tell me what questions you have about hiring a financial professional in your business, and happy to give recommendations and speak more about it in our community. Make sure you join us over there and continue the conversation. All right, I'll see you next episode. If you're an entrepreneur who's just starting out, it can be overwhelming to think about all the responsibilities you have when it comes to financial management and taxes. Even if you've been binging this podcast, implementing all of it can be really stressful if you don't have a clear list of action steps and know exactly what you should be doing right now. Luckily, we organized all of this for you in the Business Financial Quick Starter. This is your one-stop shop for beginning steps of entrepreneurship so you can build your business confidently from day one. This is not me teaching accounting, no way. It's a specific set of essential action steps to save you a lot of time, money, and headaches as you embark on your own entrepreneurship journey. We cover everything from setting up your business bank account all the way through avoiding a surprise tax bill. Now, as a podcast listener, you get 10% off with code KEEPWHATYOUEARN, all one word. So dive in now and access your Business Financial Quick Starter. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.